got a message from a client who had called earlier in the day who wanted to get some questions answered regarding bankruptcy. So I thought to myself, I'm almost done with the day. I'm going to hurry and quickly call him back on my personal cell phone because it was convenient. Generally, I don't do that. I generally call from the office line. At any rate, I called him back on my personal cell phone line. We talked for probably 30 minutes, and then on my way home, he started texting me. I didn't text while I was driving, but when I got home, I started answering his text messages. One of the questions he had was, he was trying to decide between a 7 and a 13. Currently, he's about 3 months behind on his mortgage. So he said to me on the phone call, if I file for a Chapter 7 and I'm behind on my mortgage, what happens? And I reminded him that in a Chapter 7, you really ought to be current on your mortgage because the mortgage company will do a motion for relief from stay and ask the court for permission to go ahead and proceed with foreclosures. So, and then he said to me, well, I absolutely don't want to put my house at risk. Can I do a 13? We had this conversation about possibly doing a 7, getting it discharged, all of his unsecured debts discharged, and then immediately after doing a 13 to catch up on his house. Sometimes that works, sometimes that's important for different clients, and sometimes that's a strategy we take. Now I'll segue into the text messaging conversation. He texted me back right after that phone call, and he said, well, does that show up on my credit as 2 different bankruptcies, and do I pay for 2 separate bankruptcies? And I responded, before we plan on 2 separate bankruptcies, we should focus on the 7, work with the mortgage company, and go from there. The other scenario is worst case. So he says, so in worst case, which unfortunately happens to me a lot, he says, do I have 2 separate bankruptcies on my credit? I say, not necessarily. If in the Chapter 7 the mortgage company won't work with you, then we could convert the Chapter 7 to a Chapter 13. Then it's just one case. Or if you waited or wanted to wait until the Chapter 7 was discharged and then you file a 13 to save the house, you would have 2 separate cases. But the effect on your credit report would be the same. The Chapter 13 would be to pay the arrearages only, and the 7 already would have cleared the other creditors. So he said, so the 13 would be only to pay back the back mortgages. And I say, the only option if mortgage company won't work with you in a Chapter 7 is to put yourself currently immediately on your mortgages. I don't even understand my text messages. It says the only option if mortgage company won't work with you in a 7 to put yourself current immediately and the arrearages paid over time and not a lump sum. I think I was referring to a Chapter 13. And then he says, what is your response to someone who says that if you have repos, you might as well file bankruptcy because it's going to be there for 7 to 10 years anyways? I say bankruptcy is always the best option. You can improve your credit faster after a bankruptcy. He says, we're just worried about our home. That's what we don't want to jeopardize. And I say to him, then do a 13. If you're worried about your home, you don't want to jeopardize it, then do a 13. And then he says, but we want a clean slate too. And I say, let's talk about it, make an appointment. And then he did go on at 9:20. We continued the conversation. He said, do you know if I were to reaffirm on my leased vehicle, are there any penalties for giving it up early in a Chapter 13 or a Chapter 7? And I said, not in a bankruptcy. So no penalties for giving up on your leased vehicle. He says, okay, sorry to bother you so late. It was now 10 o'clock on Friday night. I was supposed to be out on a hot date, but I wasn't. Okay, sorry to bother you so late. We just don't know what to do. We're split which way to go. And I said to him, come in and let's talk it over. And he says, where are you located? So, and then we went on about times. And then by the time my conversation with him ended, it was 10:30 at night. Now that is customer service.
That is customer.
I really appreciate your time and attention. Now, if I haven't answered all of your questions via these video series, and if you have any more questions, please contact me directly. I'm happy to give you that free consultation, and if possible, and if you retain me, we can move forward. I can be a part of your solution.